Hey guys, guess what? We're back. This is Pastor Corey, this is Adam, and we're here talking about Deuteronomy 28. This is another video in regards to what we were talking about before and how God or Yah leaves signs for those who are His to always take notice of His creation, to take notice of the chastising that He put upon His people, and not only that, that He leaves signs for us to always know that we're going in the right direction or how to get back to the right path. And so, with that being said, the Deuteronomy 28 talk, we're going to talk about some differences, in how I grew up and how Adam grew up. And then we're going to, take those things in consideration based on what the Word says. Well, Adam, one thing that I noticed about my family line is, number one, just talking to my grandma about her experience. My grandma picked cotton. Now, I know in Deuteronomy 28 it's talking about instead of being the head, you should be the tail. Now, my grandmother picked cotton, and also her mom picked cotton. So what would you consider that, the head, or would you consider that the tail? All right, is that, a oppression of a certain type of people?
Absolutely.
Picking cotton is?
Yes.
All right, so what, from your standpoint, Adam, how'd you grow up, man?
Very fortunate to be in good neighborhoods, mostly white for the most part. I would definitely not consider it like inner city or anything like that. So mostly, middle class neighborhoods, stuff like that.
All right. And had you noticed a difference in how you grew up in the schools that you went to versus what we would call inner city schools or black schools? The terms are out there, so we're not going to hide around it.
Right, yeah, definitely a big difference. And as a child, I didn't even know about them growing up. I was never told about them. I didn't even realize how well off I had it. And so as I've been getting older, I'm realizing that how different it is for different people, and how inner cities, they're mostly black people. But yeah, now looking back, there's a huge difference that I totally took for granted in how I grew up.
All right, this is another question, Adam. Because when had you spent any time in your life watching the 5 o'clock or the 6 o'clock news or had you?
As a kid?
Yeah.
No.
Younger? Any time at all? Had you coming up as a teenager?
No. I could care less when I was that young. I had other things I was focused on, playing around, whatever, just not stuff like that.
Right. So from my standpoint, I hadn't watched it when I was younger. I had no need to. But now, at this age, and I don't watch the news anymore, but in the time that I had spent watching the news, crime always seemed to cover the inner city black people. It never covered, because I didn't even know nothing happened in the bubble out in Overland Park. I thought it was all peach and cream out here. But come to find out, people get stabbed out here, murdered. But I never hear about it on the news. What would you say?
Yeah, definitely exactly what you're saying. You never really hear about it. So it's all being reported from, definitely inner city. I can't tell you how many times, this happened on Trues, this happened, in Wyandotte, stuff like that, less, wealthy neighborhoods. It's definitely like that.
So again, to me, that's oppression, because number one, you're keeping a people who live in the suburban areas or new people to a city who move here from, foreign countries, overseas, however you want to put it. They come here, they already have an image of me walking in to a store like Hen House. They already have an image of what you think I'm going to do. You have a fear that I'm going to just jump out and bite you, that I'm going to do something to you automatically because you painted this picture of who I am. And Adam getting to know me, am I that type of person?
Absolutely.
So that's still a part of oppression. That's a part of the signs. This is a part of people that's cursed. It's still people getting hung. You got all the coverage in Baltimore and that was in St. Louis for Mike Brown looked like that these people are just savage. But guess what? Before then, when we go back to some of these pictures you had when, you know, times past when you had blacks in other countries, we always portrayed and presented them as some type of savagery or some type of weirdos. I'm gonna get a picture for you that I want you guys to see. This picture right here, all right, is a picture of a black person behind a fence in a zoo. All right. Here's another one. This black woman is standing behind the fence with her child. For what? Why would this person ever be deemed that? Now, this is not about black and white, because otherwise, if it was about black and white, me and Adam wouldn't be able to sit here. But what I'm saying is there's got to be an explanation, and there's got to be a recompense for all of these type of actions. The Bible, number one, do speak that there's going to be a recompense, and that the children of the Gentiles are going to be sold to the Sabians. So to me, I can't recompense myself, because if I look at all of the things that just from the history of my family, my grandmother's great-great-grandma, all right, was a slave, and her great-great-great-grandma was a slave. That's oppression all the way down through my family, all the way to now, because we have to work so hard, you know, to try to provide for our family. When we're at the zoo, certain places that we go in the city, I can see and sense how people look with my family. All of that's oppression. It means oppression has been for centuries on my family. Not in one aspect, in many different aspects. My grandma is 94 years old, so that means in the 94 years she's been living, she's seen civil rights, she's seen hangings, she's seen the Black Panther movement, she's seen a lot of different things that this particular group of people try to do to alleviate what's been going on. Baltimore is an attempt to alleviate. Michael Brown was an attempt to alleviate. Not saying right or wrong, but I'm saying that there is a group of people that's been oppressed always, like Deuteronomy 28 talk about. So you got to take them things into consideration, that people waking up like myself wasn't a video. When one of the brothers from our congregation first came into the knowledge of the truth, I just told him to read Deuteronomy 28. He came back and it said it brought so much relief for him. He told somebody at his job to read it. They never came across a video whatsoever about black Hebrew Israelites. They just reading, and truth being what it is, truth brings about results. It brings about stimulation of the mind. It brings about a want to now figure out why, as a particular person of a society, a community, that these things weigh in so heavily on you. So I'm gonna ask Adam this. Adam, just in what you've been learning about what I'm showing you in the Bible about, you know, Yahudim, or what they call Jews versus Gentiles, what are your thoughts? And I mean, do you feel like it's right or wrong?
As in, like, how they're being treated?
Well, not just in how they're being treated, but number one, do what I'm showing you in the Bible, do it point to the curses being black people?
Oh, yeah. And once you show me Deuteronomy 28 and you read that, and it clicked in my head, like I feel like it doesn't click, and you automatically don't think, you know, who has been oppressed forever, which is unfortunately, you know, black people. If that doesn't make sense to you, then, I mean, I feel like it's so simple to me, basically, is what I'm saying. Like, it was so clear, and that just just that fact totally sold me, and I bought into everything else that is being said about it.
Because here's the mission. All right, and I'm gonna let you answer the other part of the question. Because the other part of the question pertains to the Gentiles. But here's the thing. As people come into the covenant, there's a purpose in gathering all the lost. According to custom and according to traditions, Gentiles had pagan traditions that the world now does. Like I'll take, for instance, St. Patty's Day. What do everybody do on St. Patty's Day? Drink and get what?
Wasted.
Get wasted, get drunk. Well, do the Bible say get drunk or don't get drunk? Don't get drunk. So these are the ways, according to the Torah or the Torah, that we as the righteous people who are coming into the way, Gentiles and those who descended from, however you want to look at it, we're coming in the way for one purpose, to go gather all of those who shall receive the gospel, the true word of Yah, and shall live accordingly, according to the Torah, what we're commanded to do. Now, looking at the Gentiles, well, I remember we talked before a while back, we was talking about, looking at the kings of the earth and looking at how they conquered. And then when we looked at the word on how Japhet, the seed of Japhet was going to increase, do it make sense that who the Gentiles are, and knowing that the word said the Gentiles would be ruling in these times and that Jerusalem would be downtrodden by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, do it make sense that this is a fulfilling time for the Gentiles?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we're not saying nothing wrong. That just makes us become brethren, because we want to come under one common law, one common commandment, one common purpose in fulfilling the gospel as Christ did in going out preaching truth to people, not going and saying, because I know for me, these people that I grew up around, looking at the oppressed schools, looking at the oppressed football teams. When I coached high school football, we didn't have what he had. He went to a private school. How was your locker room?
Amazing, all we could need.
Everything that you could need as a high school football player. Our locker rooms was sham when I played. Then I moved to another city, from St. Louis to Kansas City, and I coached in an inner city. We turned a locker room, we turned a boiler room into a locker room. We the one put up coat racks to make places to hang your equipment, and put benches in there and swept trash out the way and tried to make it as best as possible in a boiler room. So you're trying to coach, have all your varsity, sophomore, and freshman team all in one place to make do, because this is what we're given. How is it possible that we can just continue in this country to live and know that somebody's not going to rise up? And because we don't have the knowledge of what the Father wants, to know to turn back to Him, you're not gonna agree that to me it's a result of people rising up. But for me, receiving truth on who you are changes everything. It changes the whole ball game. I don't agree with black Hebrew Israelites standing out on the corner preaching incorrect information, or anybody else, Messianics or anybody else. You per se, Zach Bauer, not really knowing the effects of oppression and what it does. You're not going to have no sympathy for recompense for these type of people that went to schools like I went to, because what recompense did you need for going to the private schools you need? Nothing, right? And we were talking one day, it's like, how much racism have you experienced? Zero. I mean, you can look at it both ways. You can look at it because there are black people, there are racists. But on the flip side to that, let's look at who's ruling, and let's look at who's doing the majority of the oppression, and let's look at who's majority, who's being oppressed as a majority. And we can start, you can start doing, I mean, because this is the way of the world. We're not going to talk about this stuff. We can start passing the buck off on, well, you know, these people also. No, let's deal with the issue at hand. I'm comfortable with it. Maybe you're not. You need to deal with that. You need to deal with the lies that you teach. Matter of fact, shut your whole operation down and make sure you figure out who is who. You need to figure out how this truth needs to be preached. And if you ain't called to preach, then quit preaching. All right, saints. And everybody who's listening to the video, shalom, shalom.